Good afternoon and good morning, and welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. We're here and we're ready to talk about the news here on Friday, right before April Fool's, where we will totally be fooling ourselves.
Let's get it.
All right, let's get it then. It damages our free spirit. War on British tourists won't work, says Amsterdammers.
Donald Trump indicted, expected to surrender next week.
Friday briefing. What to know about a vast new leak exposing Russia's cyberware network. In today's newsletter, a 6-month investigation from The Guardian and others give unprecedented access into Putin's intelligence agencies.
The latest on 9 soldiers killed after Army helicopters collide over Kentucky.
King Charles needn't sell off the crown jewels in atonement for slavery, but Britain must waive Jamaica's debt. Barbara Blake Hanna.
Evacuation order lifted after freight train derails, catches fire in Minnesota. That story and more. Today's edition of March 31st. 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
All right, let's go into my first story here about our previous article yesterday where Amsterdam is going to try to pass an ad system in which if you search up, hey, can I have a fun time in Amsterdam, they're gonna bombard you with ads saying, hey, don't do that here, go somewhere else. So now the Amsterdammers are also going, that's not gonna do anything, and I kind of agree. It's 9:30 p.m. and groups of British lads are gearing up for a big night out in Amsterdam's red light district. Although the narrow streets echo with French, German, Spanish, Dutch, and Irish banter, this week Amsterdam City Council launched a campaign to tell Britons from 18 to 35 in a search of messy night to stay away. Lewis Flanagan, 24, from Middlesbrough, is taking the chance to party while he still can. My plans are for sex and drink, going around the bars until 6 a.m., he said, peering into brothel windows beside the Ouderzijds Achterburgwal canal. His 2 friends, unnamed, as they have serious jobs, have also come before things change. We have serious jobs. We're not going to name ourselves. We partake in the red light district. As Amsterdam braced for another rowdy weekend of visitors, things are indeed changing in the medieval district, where sex workers have operated for centuries. This is the first weekend in which 249 window brothels in Douala, the red light district, will close at 3 a.m. instead of 6 a.m., and bars will shut down at 2 a.m. From mid-May, cannabis smoking will be banned in public, and people in Britain searching for the net for the terms such as Stag Night Amsterdam now see city marketing videos warning of costly souvenirs such as fines and criminal records and hospitalizations. Don't come here, it's dangerous! A city with a population of 880,000, but the 18 million tourists a year is taking action against its image as a hub of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. At a meeting in Amsterdam Nord, a proposed multi-story erotic center to replace the 100 sex worker windows, the mayor of Femke Halsema said on Wednesday, the situation was a health hazard. It is so busy that emergency service cannot get through the canals anymore. We have to find a solution. However, even Diedrich Boomsa, the local councillor who coined the term glassy-eyed tourist zombies to describe the worst partygoers, is wondering why his compatriots are so happy to stigmatize British people. Are the UK's young men really as bad as all that? Unfortunately, the answer is yes, says tourism experts and Dutch comedy sketches. But then, so are the Dutch. In 2014, the then London mayor Boris Johnson and the late Amsterdam mayor Eberhard van der Laan clashed words over whether the problem was sleazy Amsterdam or how thousands of fellow Brits behave. By 2018, research confirmed the majority of those causing nuisances are most often groups of men between 18 and 34 from the Netherlands and the UK who visit Amsterdam with only one purpose in mind: partying and acting crazy. And you know why? Let me put some little insight to this. It's drinking culture. Because drinking makes you not think properly. And since you have a culture based on drinking as much as possible, which both the Dutch and the British have, you end up creating an environment where people are just being a nuisance because they're too drunk to even control themselves. Let's skip ahead on this really long, very long, dark article. Others believe British visitors contribute in a positive way. While the stag does get headlines from 16,000 resident Brits and their families quietly go on their lives in Amsterdam, said Tricia Tarrant of the British and Netherlands group. If this campaign helps to reduce the number of drunken tourists, so much the better. Although reservations have been expressed in our group whether it'll work, or might put off more people from visiting. Some are afraid that advertising these problems might actually glamorize them. Tim Verlaan, assistant professor in the urban history of Amsterdam University Center of Urban History, said, the campaign could give Amsterdam's allure a vice city. Okay. So, either way, we've got people either going, yeah, rock and roll, or, ugh, I don't want to go there. That's bad. So
Amsterdam is going to drop its reputation overnight. I don't know what they're worried about. All summer long, I'm in a place called Ocean City, Maryland, which is full of European teenagers, 20-year-olds, and they're all drunk all the time. So, that's a fact. I live there, so I know what goes on. It's full of Europeans that are always partying. All right, next story. Well, wait, are we still on that story?
You're good.
Okay. Donald Trump indicted, expected to... What's that?
No, it was just funny because you said the sex story.
Well, more sex,
yeah.
I guess. Stormygate, I guess we can call it. I don't know, has anybody called it Stormygate yet?
Yeah.
We had that thing where we got to put gate after everything ever since Nixon. Donald Trump has been indicted by a Manhattan... This is from the AP. Colleen Long. Donald Trump has been indicted by a Manhattan grand jury, one of 3 grand juries looking at him. A historic reckoning after years of investigating, might be 4, investigate into his personal, political, and business dealings, and an abrupt jolt to his bid to retake the White House. The exact nature of the charges was unclear Friday because the indictment remained under seal, but it appears to be 34 charges. But they stem from payments made during the 2016 presidential campaign to silence claims of an extramarital sexual encounter. Prosecutors said they were working to coordinate Trump's surrender, which could happen early next week. They did not say whether they intended to seek prison time in the event of conviction, a development that wouldn't prevent Trump from seeking or assuming presidency. The indictment, the first against a former U.S. president, injects a local district attorney's office into the heart of national presidential race. Not really. That's editorial. Arriving at the time of deep political division, blah, 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 more editorializing. Trump, who has denied any wrongdoing and has been repeatedly assailed the investigation, called the indictment political persecution and predicted it would damage the Democrats in 2020. I don't know how's it Democrats. In a statement confirming the charges, defense lawyers Susan Necheles and Joseph Tacopina said Trump did not commit any crime and will vigorously fight this political prosecution in court. This is where I stop and ask a question. If you and me committed a crime and only you went to jail for the crime, why did I not go to jail?
Yeah.
In other words, Trump's lawyer was prosecuted by Trump's Justice Department. Donald Trump was president. His Justice Department, his Attorney General, prosecuted Michael Cohen, put him in prison, put him in solitary confinement for the same crime. Same crime. One person's already gone to prison. The other person, named in the indictment, named in the conviction, has not gone to prison. It's an open and shut case. It has nothing to do with politics. Trump, again, Trump's the one who put somebody in jail for this. Trump is the one put somebody in jail for the same crime. His Justice Department. How could it be politics? Okay. A spokesman for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office confirmed the indictment, said prosecutors have reached Trump's defense team coordinated a surrender. Jacopina said Trump is likely to turn himself in Tuesday, so get ready for the circus on Tuesday. The District Attorney Alvin Bragg left his office Thursday evening without commenting. The case centers on a well-chronicled allegations from a period of 2016 when Trump's celebrity past collided with his political ambitions. Prosecutors for months scrutinized money paid to porn actor Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal, whom he feared would go public with claims that extramarital affairs with him. The timing of the indictment appeared to come as a surprise to the Trump campaign, as officials following news reports criminal charges likely weeks away. The former president was Mar-a-Lago, as Michael Cohen calls it. The former president was at Mar-a-Lago, his farm, Florida State, on Thursday, and filmed an interview with a conservative commenter earlier in the day. So the circus continues. We'll be following this story as the entire world will. Your story.
My story. Let's see what happens in the further development of that, I guess.
Oh, you will.
We will see in the coming next week, probably.
See.
Yeah.
It will never stop talking about it. This is going to be only news all day, every day. Go ahead.
Next, in news about old people doing bad things and not going to jail for it. In countries touched by European colonialism, the subjects of enslavement and reparations suddenly seem to be on the agenda. This week, The Guardian stepped forward to publish its thorough investigation into the publication's beginnings and connections with slavery. In February, the former BBC journalist Laura Trevelyan traveled to Grenada to apologize for her family, having owned 1,000 enslaved Africans there, and donate $100K to establish education projects on the island. The Dutch king recently welcomed his prime minister's apology for the Netherlands' role in the 250 years of slavery, even if that carefully avoided a direct apology from his throne and the inevitable repercussions. At last, these conversations are being had. Reactions around the world at these declarations have been varied. Any outrage that there may have been about the Dutch announcement was smoothed over by the royal family's visit to their Caribbean islands. Queen Maxima dancing with the locals was a celebrity show as effective in demonstrating an enlightened, non-racist attitude to their colonial family as Prince Harry's two-step years ago with Rita Marley's dancers in Trenchtown. The Guardian's move is admirable as Trevelyan's, but has much greater impact and potential for positive imitation by the large organizations, business and social institutions that are Britain's foundations. These institutions underpin a country whose role in enslavement of millions of Africans over 3 centuries and subsequent monopoly of their ruling systems and economies is the basis of its global strength and leadership. As the events in Europe and especially Britain began to filter through the Jamaica, the home of the largest and most militant Caribbean reparations movement, there has so far been mostly a wait-and-see attitude. The conversations about reparations in Jamaica is continuous. The strength of the public opinion rises and falls as day-to-day news events color what is often an angry discussion. Jamaicans remember when British Prime Minister told us to move on from thinking about slavery and reparations and accept a new British financed prison instead. Jamaicans broadly welcome the new reality of international discussion on the topic of slavery, who took part, who benefited, and who should pay. Some look positively at moves such as the Trevelyan's apology, the Dutch statements, and the Guardian's plans for restorative justice. But such public shows of contrition don't solve everything. In many cases, the specific identification of individuals and institutions who profit from slavery heightens the debate. Instead, the reparations I want would be the total relief of all Jamaica's debt to the UK, plus the lifting of UK's visa restrictions for Jamaican descendants of enslaved people, with unlimited access to the Empire's educational and economic opportunities, which were built on the labor of my enslaved ancestors. That way, King Charles won't have to sell off crown jewels, though he may have to convert some of the palace into student dormitories. I, and others like me, hope the British King gives more than a moment's thought to the well-researched actions and examples set by The Guardian in search for its own links to slavery. All those waiting for reparations hope he will not only search but find and then copy Laurent Trevelyan's on a much larger scale. Barbara Blake this was written by Barbara Blake, Hannah, an anti-racism activist and former TV broadcaster in Britain. So, little editorial there about slavery in the UK.
Look at all the benefits they've gotten from reggae alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob Marley, of course, famously, his father was a British soldier who we never given.
Yeah.
Okay, so in some military training news, there's not a whole lot of training deaths every year. I just looked up. There's 24 last year, 26 year before. 9 soldiers killed after Army helicopters collide over Kentucky. 2 Black Hawk helicopters from the 101st Airborne Division collided on Wednesday night near Fort Campbell. The Army said it did not know yet the cause. This is from New York Times. 9 soldiers were killed after 2 United States Army helicopters collided during the training mission near Army base along the Kentucky-Tennessee border on Wednesday night, the Army said. The 2 HH-60 Black Hawk assault helicopters crashed into each other about 10 p.m. during a routine training mission in Trigg County, Kentucky. Nondis L. Thurman, spokesman for the Army base Fort Campbell, said in a statement. She added that the crash was under investigation. The helicopters were in the 101st Airborne Division, which is based at Fort Campbell and is the Army's only air assault division. Brigadier General John Lubis said during a news conference at Fort Campbell on Thursday that the Army did not yet know what had caused the collision and that there were no radio signals calling for help before it occurred. The helicopters were equipped with flight recorders that officials hoped to be able to shed light into what happened, he said. All the soldiers are on 2 helicopters, 4 on one and 5 on the other were killed, General Lubas said. He declined to provide details about any of the soldiers until the families had been notified. This is truly a tragic loss for our families, our division, and Fort Campbell. Governor Andy Bashar of Kentucky said during the news conference that was a tragic day for Kentucky and for Fort Campbell. You must remember that the freedom relies on those who are willing to serve, some which pay the ultimate price. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin III said he would work with Army leaders to make sure our troops and their families receive the care they need in the wake of this accident. My heart goes out to the families of these service members and the members of 101st Airborne who bravely and proudly serve our country each and every day, Mr. Austin said in a statement. A Black Hawk helicopter can transport 11-person infantry squad, and the HH-60 model can be used for air assaults, medical evacuations, and other purposes, according to the Army. Current and former senior Army commanders said investigators would examine the range of questions, including whether there were any indications of any equipment problems in previous flights and how and high helicopters are flying. Weather in Fort Campbell area at the time the collision was fair, calm winds, visibility of 10 miles, and a temperature of 39 degrees. Fort Campbell sits 105 acres that include parts of Craig and Christian counties in Kentucky and Montgomery and Stewart counties in Tennessee. Training exercise in helicopters, and at night we can add 2 and 2 together. They were using night vision goggles, and night vision goggles only give you 2 dimensions, so you don't see a 3rd dimension when you're flying at night with night vision goggles. So in the old days they used to fly directly into power lines. That was when you couldn't see power lines and they'd fly into them. So I assume the helicopters are very famous for training accidents, and they were flying at night. That night vision goggles and limited visibility. Even though the weather was clear, you still got limited visibility. You're only seeing infrared. Right? You're only seeing infrared in night vision goggles.
Yeah.
You're not seeing anything else. So, yeah, there we are. Your story.
All right. In more military news, The Guardian is reporting on the Vulcan company in Russia, who is known for being the huge, investigating the long Russian military intelligence agency and their cyberware capabilities. The secret documents called the Vulcan files, thousands of pages in total, were leaked by an unknown whistleblower who has become a ghost, leaving behind their previous life entirely. These secret programs aim to spread disinformation, curtail dissent, control sections of the internet, and support hacking operations and attacks on infrastructure. While the documents do not show the tools being used, they do show intent. At first glance, NTC Vulcan looks like a normal company, a sleek cybersecurity outfit based in Moscow's suburbs. It comes across more Silicon Valley, Luke says, the spy cobra operation with staff football team, motivational emails, and glossy promo videos. But that's just the shop front. Behind the scenes is a murky operation that places the company in the web of Russia's military-industrial complex, hoovering up the brightest minds in the country. For prestigious technical universities, engineers are brought in to work with Russian military intelligence to build aggressive cyber tools.
Hoovering.
Yeah, hoovering.
They named it after the brand name of a vacuum cleaner. That's interesting. Go ahead.
The world has known for a number of years that Russian hackers have been responsible for a number of acts. They have targeted British press and telecoms and energy companies, distributed stolen emails in 2016 from Hillary Clinton's Democrats, and hacked Ukraine's power grid. But we did not know how the shadowy world of Russian spies, as Luke calls it, actually functions, using both career spies and private sector in its espionage. And this is what the new leak shows us. It reveals that these young software developers who look like they're just regular geeks are actually doing a tremendous amount of stuff. They're designing offensive hacking programs and setting up interesting tools for use by Russian military for disinformation campaigns and propaganda, all at a time when Russia is invading Ukraine. To even have this story is remarkable. A leak of this kind from Russia is incredibly rare because the penalty for treason is so high, a minimum of 20-year prison sentence, at worst, death. Treason aside, dissidents and opposition figures often end up dead, so the stakes for this anonymous whistleblower could be quite high. The whistleblower cited their anger about the invasion of Ukraine and the ongoing conflict as their primary reason for the decision to leak these files. What this tells me is that for all of its pomp and hyper-aggression, the regime of Vladimir Putin is more brittle than it seems. And within Russia, the documents show Putin's growing ambition to control absolutely everything. There is this massive web crawler and that ingests everyone's social media posts and looks for signs of dissent. Every critical post can be detected, so it looks as though Russia is going down the China's route when it comes to the internet. The expectations that anything that happens online is private feels increasingly unrealistic. As somebody who lives on the internet, I can confirm to you, anything you do on the internet is not private, okay?
Yeah. People carry around smartphones
even without Russia or America or China or anybody scrubbing the internet for anything you post. Even without that, it is not private, okay?
I find it comforting to know that Google knows my every move.
Exactly.
Yes. I don't care. Find me, Google. When I die, they will find me. They'll know exactly where I am. That is comforting to know. All right, go ahead.
The expectation that anything happens on a way, especially if you live in an authoritarian country that might be developing, or has already developed, mechanisms to ensure that online communication is acceptable to the state. The files have also shown that Russian military brought in a private contractor to build an automated domestic propaganda tool via accounts that resemble real people with realistic digital footprints. It confirms what we have known about social media. It's a lot of non-organics. So we should always have a voice in our head that asks, is Emma really Emma or is Emma Sergey? Who knows? Some ex-Vulcan employees are now living in Western countries, some of whom are at global tech companies. Even if the engineers have brought their families with them, there is a chance that other people they care about will remain in the country, meaning that they could be vulnerable to coercion. But forcing these professionals to return to Russia, knowing that they could put them in harm's way, also sounds unethical. The Vulcan files are part of a troubling puzzle that reveals Russia's increasing authoritarianism. But the leak itself also shows that people on the inside are not going to accept it. Even though the state looks this enormous, powerful, titanic thing behind the scenes, there's a lot of discontent and people are unhappy. That doesn't mean it's going to fall over, but you can see the cracks appearing. Alright, on to you.
Russia's authoritarianism. How rare. Evacuation and more train wreck news in our continuing quest and to cover every train wreck because people think they're rare and they're not. They do happen every day, just near. Evacuation order lifted after freight train derails, catches fire in Minnesota. Evacuation order lifted and residents can return home after a freight train derailed in a fiery crash near a small town in Minnesota early Thursday. The Kandiyohi County Sheriff's announced, that's the name of a county in Minnesota, Kandiyohi. Residents, I'm sure I said that wrong. Residents were forced to evacuate as a precaution. The incidents reported on 1 a.m. Central Time. Multiple tankers of a train operated by Burlington Northern Santa Fe, BNSF Railway, derailed and caught fire on the western edge of Raymond, a town in Minnesota's southwestern Kandiyohi County that has a population of less than 800. The tankers were carrying a form of ethanol and corn syrup liquid, according to the press release from Kandiyohi County Service. So we're going to make some pancakes, huh? BNSF spokesman Lena Kent confirmed to ABC News that approximately 22 cars of a train carrying mixed freight, including ethanol and corn syrup, derailed near Raymond at 1:02 a.m. The company, one of the largest freight railroad networks in North America, is investigating the cause of the incident, and so far, there were no reported casualties, according to Kent. BNSF field personnel are responding to assets assess the derailment site and will be working closely with first responders, Kent told ABC News. The main track is blocked and an estimated time for reopening the line is not available. There's some nice fiery pictures of it. Approximately 13 rail cars were carrying ethanol. 4 train cars are on fire contained. 4 train cars that are on fire contained ethanol, FEMA officials said Thursday, which means they burned pretty quickly, I suppose. Half-a-mile evacuation radius was initially established around the derailment site as residents within a designated area were instructed to leave their homes at the time, while those with nowhere to go were sent to school in nearby Princeburg, according to Kandiyohi Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office said there will be road detours around the crash site, but there was no impact to the groundwater. Local responders and BNSF personnel continue to work to mitigate the incident. Homeland Security U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg confirmed in a Twitter post that the Federal Railroad Administration is on the ground after a BNSF train carrying ethanol derailed early this morning, leading to evacuation in the area of Raymond, Minnesota. At present, no injuries or fatalities are reported. Buttigieg added, "We are tracking closely as more details emerge and will be involved in the investigation. Homeland Security Emergency Management is actively monitoring the situation," and that is about it. Train derailment news. Okay, I guess we got your entertainment news, or...
Yep. In culture today, we're going to talk about sad clips from films, TV shows, and TikTok are being spliced together over melancholy music, and they're raising a smile among hopeless young people. Jimmy Nguyen, an 18-year-old student, saw his first core video on TikTok in January. Can't remember which one it is. There are so many of them now. But he says it's a typical of the new trend of video. Other TikTok videos and celebrity or podcast interviews, TV show or film clips spliced together of some sad or ambient music. They're depressing, full of existential dread, and usually on the themes of disconnection and alienation. Nguyen initially thought, like other users, that these videos were a joke. They're crudely edited, and the name in itself is a sarcastic reference to the proliferation of microtrends emerging from TikTok since 2020. But he was soon staying up late at night in his bedroom, making core of his own. As I was making my first video, I started to really see myself expressing how I was feeling, and it felt relieving because I didn't have anyone to talk to, and explaining my emotions is hard, he tells me. But the video felt like an exit or a gateway to those feelings. In it, clips of Lee Jung-jae, the lead in Squid Game, smiling broadly and falsely at the camera. Someone recounting how in school kids would ask which superpower you'd want out of invisibility and flying, but he says, "I'm already invisible." And Jake Gyllenhaal in Stronger, 2017, screaming, "Why do you even want me? I'm such a fuck up," runs into each other over a morose arcade fire track. Now Nguyen makes these videos in an attempt to help people, he says, to let them know that they're not alone. To date, the Corecore hashtag on TikTok has 2.1 billion views. Some young people consider the genre to be merely content, or worse still, content about content. But many feel it speaks to them and their experiences on a deep emotional level. They're my favorite type of TikTok video because they feel raw and real, says 20-year-old Annabelle from London. The combination of clips that just somehow summarizes everything that's bad about life, but I couldn't quite tell you why. Or as one commentator put it on a Corecore video about struggling to date and the toxicity of modern relationship perpetuated by all genders, why am I crying over this? The form of video started with niche talk, where you would see really random clips spliced together, like footballers scoring goals, peep show clips, and performances from Oasis and Blur. It was masculine and all boys were making it, says Eden Yun, editor of Polyester Zine and podcast co-host. People wanted something a bit deeper and craved something more meaningful from this trend, which led to Corecore. It's fairly obvious why Gen Z would enjoy Corecore. You can be moved by these videos without knowing the sources of the clips, but if you understand the pop culture and internet culture references, you'll feel special. Like most internet humor, if you get it, you get it. Everything feels very hopeless, and Corecore speaks to these frustrations and anxieties. It's a way to laugh at how hopeless everything is, or at least get some meaning from it. You have a light bulb moment that says, oh yeah, the world is bullshit. To me, it's like the others of its kind, it is a simple and accessible version of an Adam Curtis film, adopting his humor and slant, the seemingly unrelated clips with his voiceover. Young notes that the writer Mark Fisher ideas signed through in this genre. Fisher was an anti-capitalism, spoke a lot about isolation, and wondered about how we can process the hopelessness in the modern world. When I watch Corecore, or as someone who only sporadically uses TikTok, it mimics the way using the app is overstimulated act of binge watching a stream or short video and voices. This trend is smart and sad. Is a smart and sad comment on the proliferation of content in culture. Self-focused, often narcissistic commentary, opinions, life hacks, and problem sharing. It's everywhere. The videos make me feel despondent and sorry for a generation who grew up during the pandemic and have never in their lives logged off. Whether we enjoy them or not, they probably have the avant-garde documentaries you deserve, and certainly the ones that make the most sense. So, I can relate to that as somebody who graduated in the pandemic. Life has never been the same since, and I'm tired of people trying to act like it is the same as it was before, because it is not.
It's tempered your expectations anyway. You
Yeah.
have these lofty, wow, life's pie in the sky. Okay. Well, on more philosophical news, I think, therefore I am. Who said that?
Aristotle.
Oh, René Descartes, French modern philosophist.
I said no.
It's his birthday, born in 1596. Descartes. All right. And composer Joseph Haydn, one of the most, was born in 1732. U.S. Commodore Matthew Perry signaled the Treaty of Kanagawa in Japan, ending the country's period of seclusion. In 1854, Japan became kind of an open society compared to what it was before.
No, they were pretty open internally.
Not to the outside world. Thomas Peterson, Monday, a Perth Amboy, New Jersey, became the first African American to vote under the 15th Amendment of the Constitution in 1870. Thomas Peterson, Monday, a Perth Amboy, New Jersey. The first freed slave, African American to vote, I guess. 1870. Clocks in the United States were set 1 hour ahead as daylight savings time went into operation for the first time in 1918. This was when it started. 105 years ago, we've been doing this stuff. Canadian-born ice hockey player Gordie Howe was born 1928. (1948) Vice President Al Gore was born on this date, so happy birthday, Al Gore.
Damn, I didn't know he was that old.
Yep, and U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson televised speech that he would not seek re-election on this day in 1980. In 1968, sorry, 1980, he'd already been dead for like 7 years. He definitely wasn't going to seek re-election then. American in 1980, Jesse Owens, four-time Olympic gold medalist in the 1936 Olympics, died at the age of 66. And I have, if we have any extra time,
we can keep going. What do you have?
this year in 1889, the Eiffel Tower was inaugurated. So happy birthday to the Eiffel Tower. And I was watching. I was watching. Do you like drummers who sing? Like you like rock bands?
Yeah.
But how many real good singers are drummers actually? Like they play the drums and they sing at the same time, or they sing in a band, but they used to be a drummer, so forth.
Yeah.
How many are actual drummers? There ain't that many, right? So I made a list. How many can you name? How many can you name? Just any.
Drummers that are also singers.
Right.
Dave Grohl.
There you go. He's on my list.
The singer for Atreyu. I don't even know if you know the band Atreyu, but they have a drummer.
Okay, so we can list them in the next one. On my list, number 10. Number 10, Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees.
Okay.
Well, this is my list. If you got a list, make a list. I encourage list making in all forms. Number 10 is Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees. Now, these are kind of listed in order of drumming and singing combined, right? Like, number 10 is not going to be the greatest drummer, probably not the greatest singer. Number 1 is going to be the really good drummer, really good singer, okay? Okay. Number 9, Marvin Gaye, great singer. Not known as a drummer, but he did play drums. I had to look it up. He played drums on several hits for Motown, including Dancing in the Streets and Please Mr. Postman. Marvin Gaye was the drummer, not the singer. Sheila E. Famously, Prince put her out there as a drummer. Sheila E., famous singer and drummer. Number 7, Ringo Starr. Everybody knows who he is.
Yep.
Not the greatest singer, not the greatest drummer, but you know what Ringo is, and he's a rock star. Number 6, Roger Taylor of Queen. Doesn't sing a lot of songs, but he has that high-pitched voice that you hear in all of the choruses, that Roger Taylor voice. He sings I'm in Love with My Car. So.
Yep.
Number 5, Don Henley, who sang about 80% of the Eagles' hits and played drums at the same time. Like I said, not the greatest drummer, but a real good singer. But not a bad drummer. And Number 4, previously mentioned Dave Grohl, who went from being a drummer to being a lead guitarist for Foo Fighters and hiring his own drummer. But he does play drums on a lot of his tracks, so you could slide in Taylor Hawkins, who was not really a great singer, but a great drummer. Number 3, Levon Helm of the band. There is a great singer, and again, not the technically guy you're like, oh, Levon Helm, we got to get him on drums. But yeah, Levon Helm had that voice that sounded like America. And number 2, Phil Collins. Everybody knows Phil Collins, Genesis, great singer, great drummer. Number 1, guess who's number 1? Aaron.
I don't know.
Aaron Carpenter. Aaron Carpenter of the Carpenters. Great singer, great drummer.
Well, there you go.
End of story. All right.
We've got Roger's definitive
list of drummers who could sing. Honorable mention, Peter Gabriel started as a drummer.
Yes, technically, yes.
They had Phil Collins. Well, they had somebody else first, then they hired Phil. Yeah, go ahead.
All right,
and
well,
that's today's...
What?
We're going to do something special on Friday, right?
Yeah.
We can't just have a Friday and this go 2 days without this glorious news, you know?
And that has been Allison here from the Netherlands talking about secret Russian hackers and bots, which we kind of already knew about because everyone has been saying it for the last 5 years that, hey, you're just a Russian bot. Stop talking to me. And you know how TikTok is a new expression of our existential fears of the future. I'll see you next week for some news over the weekend. hopefully we're going to see who wins the March Madness, and it's the team I picked.
And this is your Russian propaganda bot. I'm here until Monday. I'll be back. They will be unplugging me for upgrades. Good day, March 31st, 2023.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.